It's now time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. Led by Chung Jin-suk, President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol sent a delegation to Japan to improve ties between the two neighboring countries.
That's right. However, with historical disputes being the main reason for frayed tensions between the two countries, will Yoon's delegation be able to find resolution? Now, for insights on the delegation's trip to Tokyo, we connect with Dr. Choi Eun-mi, Research Fellow at Asan Institute for Policy Studies, Center for Regional Studies. Dr. Choi, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
So, Dr. Choi, first and foremost, let's talk a bit more about this 7-member delegation. Why were they chosen specifically to lead the talks over in Tokyo?
While the 7 members chosen for the delegation clearly show the direction of the next administration's diplomacy was Japan and its agenda for discussion. The 7 members consist of politicians, bureaucrats, and scholars. First of all, Chung Jin-suk is the delegation leader and South Korea's National Assembly Deputy Speaker. And Kim Seok-ki is the deputy chief of the delegation and is the vice chair of the Korea-Japan Parliamentary Diplomacy Forum. The two politicians are the senior lawmaker in People's Power Party, and they have well-established political network with Japan. And also, the 3 scholars are experts in Japan, North Korea, and the United States, respectively. At the same time, they also have well-established academic and policy networks with Japan and the U.S. While the former ambassador Kang Ho-jin worked in the Lee Myung-bak administration and the former ambassador Lee Sang-duk worked in the Park Geun-hye administration. Among the 7 members, Ambassador Lee Sang-duk's involvement in the delegation was controversial because he involved in the negotiation of the agreement on comfort women issue in 2015, which was one of the most controversial issues between Korea and Japan and widely opposed at home. But I think the new government showed its willingness to discuss the historical issue with Japan.
And that leads to my next question, Dr. Chair. Now, historical issues, they were one of the main reasons that relations between Seoul and Tokyo got so bad in recent years. And, well, do you think these sensitive issues are going to be addressed during the delegation's trip, or do you think the two parties are going to sort of avoid things for now?
Well, I don't think these issues will be avoided because these are the biggest issues of the Korea and Japan conflict. Rather, it's more difficult to avoid mentioning conflict issues such as comfort women, forced labor, export regulation, and gsomia. Also, the Japanese government may wonder what position the new government has on the issues. I think more than anyone else, the delegation knows that not mentioning the issues will cause people to question the government's sincerity of improving relations between Korea and Japan. However, it will be difficult to come up with a solution immediately or reach an agreement that both sides can be satisfied with. Even though Korea and Japan hope to improve relations, the difference between their respective positions is vast. The Japanese government has not changed its position that the Korean government should resolve the issues. Moreover, the delegation does not have the authority to present an agreement or negotiate. The delegation is also making this clear. Nevertheless, I think it is a meaningful start for the delegation to put the issues on the table and show the diplomatic direction of new government at this visit.
I think you make a very good point. The Yoon administration eventually they do have to bring up of the past historical issues, but at least for now, I mean, they're trying to really improve ties with Japan. I think it won't be the top of the agenda when it comes to discussions on some of the issues. But aside from the historical issues, what do you think are some of the other key issues that I guess the delegation needs to bring up with the talks in Tokyo?
Well, recently, the biggest inconvenience between Korea and Japan is the restriction of movement due to COVID-19. Of course, the spread of COVID-19 should be considered, but the revival of visa exemption and the release of quarantine obligation will be meaningful signals to the resumption of exchanges between Korea and Japan. In addition, this is a relatively easy improvement to achieve. However, I think the real signal of resolving this conflict is the removal of export regulation by Japan in 2019 and the normalization of dysomia. Even though the impact of export regulations is not great and dysomia is still maintained, but it is an unstable state and it may change at any time. It is not easy to resolve because these are all connected, but it is important to eliminate this instability between the countries. In addition, Korea, the United States, and Japan cooperation on North Korea and China is expected to be discussed, especially in light of the Ukraine crisis. Although it will be difficult to resolve the current conflict issues at this visit, I think it will show a willingness to restore Korea and Japan relations.
And Dr. Chair, well, Japan's media and its foreign ministry certainly seem to have given a very positive response to all these developments regarding the incoming administration. But in terms of the two leaders meeting, do you see it happening anytime soon?
Yeah. Although Korea and Japan have been in conflict throughout history, the relations between the two countries is very important in terms of security, economy, and values. First is security. Korea and Japan can respond to threats from North Korea and China in cooperation with the United States. Second is economy. The countries are important trading partners for each other. And lastly, improving relations between Korea and Japan is a way to protect the values of market economy and liberal democracy. In many fields, the two countries are connected and help each other. In the sense, relations between the two countries are too important to give up because of historical conflict.
Afraid all the time that we have right now. And of course, we'll get some more results of this once the delegation does return. Dr. Choi, thank you very much for joining us today with your insights and looking forward to talking to you again in the future.
Okay, thank you.